last week, I'm not sure if you caught last week's episode, but that was the episode where I talked about doing triage in Riverside and then moving things into Final Cut.
Right.
So this week I decided to edit, or this last week I decided to edit the Kilowatt Thanksgiving special, which has 3 people on the episode plus the game board, which is, it's a Jeopardy-like game. And I decided to edit that all in Riverside. And I would like to share how that went.
And for those who don't know, we've always recorded in Riverside, but Bodie would take the Riverside recording, export it, and then edit in Final Cut Pro on his Mac. So you changed up. Instead of doing that, you're now doing the editing inside of Riverside, where the editing system from the time we started to where it is now has significantly, been enhanced, I would say. It's probably even an understatement to say significantly. It exists now where you could do it and replace a Final Cut, whereas before you simply couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to sum it up. The thing is, though, it's good for certain things, right? The whole reason, well, I don't know if the whole reason, I started editing in Final Cut for the very first time when you came on for the first annual Thanksgiving special, right? So it was me, you, Allison Sheridan, and Steve Sheridan. And that episode took me a very long time to edit in Final Cut because I didn't know how to use the program. And over time, I've gotten a lot better at that program, and I have kind of certain tips and tricks that I use to make that whole process go smoother now. Unfortunately, it's time consuming to download the stuff, and it takes data to download it and all that stuff. And like you said, Riverside got better, and I've been editing just our episodes, just when it's just you and I've been editing those on Riverside, and it's worked out pretty well. And I'm actually very impressed. But then I was like, well, let's see if I can do this, recreate what I do in Final Cut in Riverside for that Thanksgiving episode. And again, this year there was 3 people and 1 game board. And, I will say Riverside was not the right tool for that job. And I want to know, have you ever experienced something where you're like, you know what, I'm going to try something different, or, maybe you've discovered a new technique or a new tool to use? And how did you decide that, you know what, this isn't the right tool for the job?
So it's interesting that you ask that way, because I have done this, but it's not been recent. I have come to a point to where when I find a tool that works for me, instead of, let me take a step back. I used to have an issue that where I'd be using a tool today, and the tool is fine, is doing what I need it to do. But then there's another tool that somebody talks about, and it's like, oh, shiny bubbles and butterflies. That looks fun. Let me go try that. And now I switch over and I'm using that tool. And that tool also works just fine. And then another tool comes up and it's like, oh, bubbles and butterflies again. Let me move over to this tool and try that. And that used to be my standard mode of operation.
There you go.
The problem with that is that I never got good in anything, because I would every 6 months or so switch over to something completely new and have to learn a whole new system that it works just fine. But because I'm not used to it, I don't know the shortcuts, I don't know the ins and outs of the tool, it actually was creating more work for myself. So, I have been, and you know this, Bodie, I'm pretty big on like personal productivity, building a second brain, all that kind of stuff. When I started doing those things, like, really getting into, even before building a second brain, but just like, Atomic Habits and reading, books like that, finding the right way to do something and just doing it that way until there is a reason that you wouldn't do it that way is way more effective than just because something new comes out, you move over to the new thing. So to answer your question, yes, I am intimately aware of when you just are using the wrong tool for something, because I used to switch tools all the time, and oftentimes the new tool was no better than the tools that I already had, or it was just that I didn't know how to use the new tool to do something that I already knew how to do in the old tool. So I'm trying to fight and figure something out in the new tool, where if I would have just kept with what I was using, it would have worked out much, much better.
Yeah. The thing is how do you know? Like, cause there's a certain amount of, cognitive load that you're going to have when you start a new program, right? There's going to be a certain amount of time, like you said, to learn the program. And then you might find that that's not worth your time, and you have to do it in the program you have been using. So, it starts to eat up all your productivity. Instead of being more productive, now you're less productive. Now there's a little bit in that if you find a tool that works really well, you might be less productive for a little bit, but then, you overcome that knowledge barrier that you have. So in that, Rob, like, how do you test new products to see what's going to work for you versus, just kind of looking at it and going, I don't think this one's going to fix the problem that I need to fix.
I'll give you an example. I now no longer have any Adobe products. I used to keep an Adobe Creative Cloud account. So I had access to Adobe Premiere, Adobe Audition, to PowerPoint, not PowerPoint, but to Photoshop, to Lightroom, to all these tools. And then this thing called Canva came out. And what I found was that 90% of the stuff that I did, I could do in Canva so much more easily than I could do in Photoshop. But there were still some things that I just needed to have Photoshop for. So I kept Photoshop around. But then it became like, well, wait a minute. If everything I can do in Photoshop, or everything I can do in Canva, I can easily do in Photoshop, or not easily, but it can be done in Photoshop. Does it make sense for me to be able to do both things? So, so we got to the point to where, well, wait a minute, I'm paying for this license. I like Canva better. I have not used Photoshop in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. So I got to where, okay, I'm just going to cancel the license. And then if I need it, I'll re-up the license. And then if I decide that I want to stay in that application, I'll keep that license going, but I got to cancel Canva. So the thing for me is that I will not keep two tools that do 80 to 85% of which the other tool does. I will not keep subscriptions going for more than 3 months, because it's like, if I can do 80 to 85% in one of these things, I'm just going to stick with the one thing, unless there's something that comes up. In this case, there was something that came up, in Photoshop that I just simply could not do in Canva at the time. So I had to go back and reactivate the account. But that's the only reason for me that I would do something like that. And hopefully I'm answering your question. So it's like, how do you know? There's something that you want to be able to do that you can't do in the product set that you have. So you have to look for a new product set. So the question becomes, is there a plugin or something that I can use to do this? Or do I need to go get a full-fledged product? Because if it's a plugin that I can put into, if I would have kept Photoshop, if I can put this plugin into Photoshop and it does it, I'll continue to do this here. If it is, I just like using this other tool more and I spend more time in it, then I'll get rid of Photoshop and I'll go do it there and then figure out a way to do the one thing in Photoshop that I couldn't do in Canva, which this is years ago. You can now do almost everything in Canva that you could do in Photoshop.
Yeah. And then it just kind of was another thing in that same vein. I've played with a few different plugins, and I'm blanking on the names now, but they would multicam switch between whoever was talking on our recording. And I was using it with DaVinci Resolve, and one program worked okay. The other program worked fantastic, all the way up until one day they edited it and they updated it and it stopped working entirely for what I use it for. Not to say that they did anything wrong on their side, but for what I was using it for, it stopped working. In that kind of a situation, you find something that is like, oh my gosh, this is saving me so much time, because it was. And now this was in 2024, Rob, and I'm pretty sure you remember, but I was spending a lot of time. I even got on a call with somebody from the company to try and fix it. They were very good about support, but we just weren't able to get that to work. And I sunk a bunch of money into this program. I sunk a bunch of time into this program. And at the end of it, I was just not able to use it anymore.
I look at it, and this is probably from my corporate days, there's opportunity cost to everything. And I think that a lot of creators that are doing this and are trying to make it a business They don't think about the opportunity cost. They think about, oh, here is a new tool that can do this great thing. And it is really awesome. And it really does all these things well. And it probably will work for you. But how much does it cost for you to switch over to that? I'll give you an example. There are a whole lot of folks that if I say that I'm just not a fan of Notion, they actually discredit my abilities. Like, how can you not like Notion? It's the greatest tool ever.
Yeah.
And for me, the reason that Notion is not the greatest tool ever is because I don't use Notion or tools like Notion because I think those tools are cool. I use tools like that. I use Evernote. I use Airtable. I use those tools because I have a job that those tools need to do. And the tools that I use do those jobs just fine. So every time I would try to go to Notion, because it's like, oh, this is what everyone is using. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to say easily, I can move my process over to Notion, but what does that really cost me? I would have to pay for a Notion subscription to be able to do the stuff that I would want to do in it. And then I would have to spend enormous amounts of time figuring out how to create all the dashboards and how to create all the things in Notion when I don't have a desire to be a Notion designer. I don't have any desire to do to do all these glorious things that can be done. I don't want to be Frank Kern when it comes to Notion, where you can just figure out how to create dashboards and all this kind of stuff. That's not me. I don't want to create that. So for me, the opportunity cost is that I switch over to Notion. I'm going to lose productivity because I'm now using a tool that I don't know. And then for me, I've got to go hire somebody to build all the stuff that I already had built in other things simply so I can be over here in this new thing. And the opportunity cost is like, okay, well, you know what? I would save $20 a month if I were to move everything over into Notion as compared to having multiple tools to do this. But what does it cost me to pay somebody to do everything that I need to do in Notion? And then as time goes, to add all the features that I would be getting in these other tools. Is that worth the $260 a year, $240 a year, whatever it would cost to just to pay that extra money? So it's not that a tool didn't work for me. In my case, it is more of a tool just didn't work for me. It just wasn't something that it didn't warrant me moving over into it. So hopefully I'm answering your question, Bodhi, because like I can't think of a time when I've had a tool that was doing the job and then it just simply no longer did the job and I had to find something else. I can't think anything off the top of my head. I'm sure there is something. I'm sure there are tools that have gone away that I used to use that are no longer available. So you had to move on to something else. But I just can't think of anything relatively recently.
Yeah. I know there was an auto leveler tool. What was that called? And Levelator. Yeah. That went away.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people brought it back.
So yeah, Levelator is definitely a tool that I use. But here's the thing. I never stopped using it. Now some people will say, well, isn't that dangerous? You're using a tool that's no longer supported. Hey, it still worked. So, so was I living dangerously? Yes. But it continued to work for me. Because remember, I'm not this big company. If I were the big company, I had a bunch of employees. No, I'm not going to have employees that are using some unsupported software, but it's like, I know how to get around this. It's like, if this doesn't work, I need to go get an Auphonic subscription. That solves the problem. Auphonic does what Levelator does on steroids. But it's like, but do I need to do that if Levelator still works for me? No, it doesn't. Now, there's some other things that Auphonic does that, well, wait, that's kind of nice. You show me some things in an app. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, I can do this. Oh, I can make it sound like this. I can make it sound like that. So now I don't use Levelator any longer. I'm now using Auphonic to do this stuff. Levelator is still installed on my PC. It's here. It'll run. It'll do whatever I need it to do. But it was not that the tool was no longer available, because at the time it wasn't. They've now brought it back. But for me, it's still doing the job. I don't need the updates because all I needed to do is take these 3 WAV files and make them all sound like they were all talking at the same level. If it could do that, I'm good. And Levelator was perfect for that. So, I don't want to change gears on you too much, but just talking about using the right tools. Like I said, you threw this in our, I've known we were going to be talking about this for a couple of days, so I've been thinking about it. And it even caused me to put a couple posts out about some things. particularly when it comes to us, we are creators. There are tools that we use. We have workflows on how we get stuff done. And particularly when it comes to podcasting, you and I get questions where other people are asking, well, hey, how did you do this? How did you set this up? How did you do this thing? So for me, not necessarily going out and trying to learn every tool that's out there. For example, I don't tend to use free services. The reason for that, and I understand that, so I'm not saying that I am like against free services, but I do believe this, that if you're using a service that is not charging you money, you are not their customer. You are their product. They are monetizing you in some way, form, or fashion. The company can't exist just to give you services. It's not a public library. They're not getting tax dollars to be funded. So if you are not the customer, you're the product. So for me, because I do kind of feel that way, and I do think that it's a trap to oftentimes try to do everything with free tools, I don't necessarily use a lot of the free tools. Therefore, I don't know how to use them. But every now and again, because I do have so many people ask, well, what is it? Is there like a free host that you would use? Me? No, there isn't one. But RSS.com, not bad. Back in the day, Anchor, before Spotify got a hold of them, not bad. So there were some things like that. And I would go, pay attention to them just so that I could speak intelligently on them. But like, you're not going to find me using the free version of RSS.com as a podcasting host, because there are so many things that are now part of my workflow that I use that it just doesn't make sense for me to use that. It's like, yes, it's free. You're not paying money for it, but I'm missing out on all these other features that are costing me money by not being able to do them. So I'm not necessarily a fan of free stuff, but I do go and look at those tools because I know that a lot of people are not looking for podcasting consulting. They're just looking for information. Hey, I want to set something up. I'm just trying something. I don't want to pay $20, $30 a month for hosting. Who is a good one? So I think it is kind of my responsibility, being a podcasting person, somebody who talks about podcasting all the time. Well, let's go do a little bit of research and figure out which ones are okay. So like right now, I would say RSS.com is probably one of the better ones. Buzzsprout, if you only have a few downloads, which most people who are just starting out do, it's probably not bad, as well. I tend to stay away from Spotify. I'm not, I'm not a fan of what Spotify is doing, but it is another one. I'm aware of it, but I don't know how to use it because I'm just not a Spotify fan. So that's kind of how I look at tools, man. I look at them because I know that I want to talk about them, and there are my favorites. There are tools that I use every single day that I tend to tell people, hey, this is how I do this. I use this tool to do it. This is how I do that. I use this tool to do that. And one of the nice things about that is that there are often affiliate relationships you can have with tools you're using. Now, I'm not one of those affiliate marketers where I literally go try to find everything that is an affiliate offer that pays the most amount of money and start telling people and recommending those things to folks. That's not what I do. But there are tools like the host that I use for podcasting. I've been using the same ones for decades. I like them. Therefore, I tell people about them. I can get an affiliate referral on that because I've got a level of expertise of using some of these tools. There are some tools that I use for editing. I really like them. I've been using them for decades. I tend to tell people about these tools and how I use them and how my workflow goes. And if they go out and buy those tools with my affiliate link, then I make something. So there is a benefit to being aware of what's going on in some tools. But there are other tools that they're just things that I use to do my work, and I'm not really thinking about them. It doesn't matter to me that it's one tool versus another tool. It's just a tool that does the job that I need to be done.
Yeah. In a lot of cases, it's better for the tool to get out of your way and you not to even think about it. Like, you gave me the tip of using Headliner to, put the Kilowatt podcast on YouTube. It's great. It works out fantastic. It goes on YouTube. I don't have to think about it. I pay them $20 a month or whatever it is for that, the ability to do that. But I never have to worry about it going up on YouTube. It's just there. And that saves me a little bit of time every day. And normally I'm recording and editing and posting late at night. So that means that gives me more sleep. And it's not just time. I get more sleep doing that. I have never been to rss.com, Rob, and you get a lot of free stuff for rss.com. That's pretty impressive. And the paid is not, it's not all that much for the paid side either, if you pay up front.
Nope. Elsie Escobar recommended this. I think it was someone on Threads just asked a question like, hey, what is a really good free podcasting host? And this was one that she recommends. Elsie's been doing, she's one of the few people who's been doing this longer than I've been doing it. It's like, I mean, there are a lot of people who have been doing this longer than I've been doing it, but I've been podcasting almost 20 years. She's been podcasting over 20 years. So if she says rss.com is worth it, let me go check this out and see what you get. And as I go check, it's like, wait a minute, unlimited episodes, unlimited audio, RSS feed for your podcast. And this is not a commercial for rss.com.
No,
it's just like somebody who I trust said, hey, this is a pretty good one for a free podcast host. I'm like, yeah, it's not bad. Would you or I use the free version of this? No, we wouldn't. I mean, there are too many things that we need in this, in the systems that we have set up, where we have them set up, that we wouldn't want to lose that by going, by going to a free host. But if this is where you're starting, RSS.com ain't bad.
Yeah. I will say there are, and I'm not saying you're not saying this, but there are programs. What's the program you use to edit audio?
Audacity.
Great open source project.
Mm-hmm.
DaVinci Resolve has a free version that almost gets you everything you need. So there's not
it is ridiculous. So with Audacity, it is, Audacity is like PBS, man. It needs the people who use it and love it to support it. So I actually, every few years or so, I'll donate to the company that, that basically it's open source. So it's not one company, but it's like, there's one place to go get Audacity. I'll donate to that because it's like, it's a tool that I get value out of, and I don't have a problem paying for the products that I use. But it's like, I've been using the tool for so long. It's like, do I need to use Adobe Audition? I could use it, but the stuff for me, what I'm doing, Audition, does it, but so does Audacity. It just works there. So yeah, I'll actually pay for it. That is one of the free tools I use. I used free, Blackmagic, DaVinci Resolve for years. And then I decided, you know what? There's some things that I want to do that I can't do, but I want to do them. Let me go pay this one-time license. And that was another reason we had to get rid of, I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but that's another reason why we had to get rid of Adobe Cloud. It's like, wait a minute, I've now purchased a whole nother tool that I like using more than I like using Adobe Premiere. And this is just a one-time fee forever, as compared to you've got to give them money every single month.
Yeah.
So
I think it's $300 for Resolve.
Yeah. Well worth it.
It's basically less than 1 year of Premiere. If my math is right, I think it's $30 a month for Premiere. But if it's not 1 year, it's pretty short, pretty close to that. So yeah, it's definitely worth your time.
It is ridiculous how good that application is. Are there things that people like? I think if you were to go into like a professional production house, it's going to be Premiere first, and then it'll be some folks. I just like DaVinci Resolve. I think many people would say like color grading is superior. You can color grade to a much higher degree, not much higher. You can color grade to a higher degree in DaVinci than you can in Premiere. I think that's probably general consensus at this point. So it's not like it is Premiere is here and then DaVinci is like down there. It's like, no, we're talking about if Premiere is 100 out of 100, DaVinci is like 97 out of 100. It's really, really good for premium software.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're making a big budget movie, then for most people, the free version is going to be great. Upgrading for the $300 for a lifetime license is also great. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's $22.99 a month for Premiere. So, you're not, maybe it's not quite a year, maybe it's a little over a year for that.
It's $250, $250, $260 a year. So yeah, it's not inexpensive. But once again, I wasn't really using all the stuff in Premiere. even though I had it. The reason I have my Adobe Cloud was for Adobe, Audition. I was doing a lot of editing in that from an audio standpoint. I was doing a lot of stuff in Photoshop. I was doing a lot of stuff in Lightroom. So those were the reasons that I had that. Premiere was just kind of, hey, it kind of comes. But I never really got into video editing. It's literally since you and I have been doing this show is the entirety of my video editing outside of doing stuff maybe like in Camtasia or something like that. Mm-hmm. So Resolve was just there, and it was free, and I no longer had that that Adobe subscription, so I just learned how to do some stuff there, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I don't need to ever go back to Premiere. I can do everything I need to do here.
Yeah, and we can wrap this up because we can continue going down this. I know you use Descript. I don't use Descript, but Descript is a really good tool to use if somebody's just looking for something to use and edit like a Word document. They can edit video in the same kind of way.
Very similar to what you're doing in Riverside.
Yeah.
Riverside's editor. One of the reasons why I like Descript over, well, there's many reasons why I like Descript over the editor in Riverside. I like recording. See, here's the thing. I like recording in Riverside probably more than any other platform. It just works for me. I know some people have had issues with it, but it just works. It's really good. And then you can edit right here in the interface, and the editor is really good as well. Where Descript does it for me is that I was actually using Descript before you could record in Descript. Descript for me was just a tool that you edited, had a visual editor or a WYSIWYG editor to edit, actual audio or audio to edit video. And that's why I got into it. And then, Squadcast is who I used to use as a remote recording platform. They bought Descript, and I just got a Descript license. And it's like, okay, well, I do like Riverside more than I like Squadcast, but I really like this Descript. So I just kind of stayed there, and I am a fan. I use Descript more than I use DaVinci Resolve. There are many things that I can do in Resolve that I cannot do in Descript. Color grading, if I'm ever doing any of that, I'm just going right to Resolve for it. But but the video editing that you can do visually, I'm sorry, as a Word doc, you can literally look at the words in the transcript and make edits on the transcript as compared to having to go into the actual timeline. It just makes it so easy for somebody who is not trying to be a video editor by profession.
Yeah, I will say, even because it's probably been a year and a half since I got rid of my Descript subscription, I will say even a year and a half ago, they were ahead of where Riverside is even now. And even when I edit in Riverside, I still edit to the timeline. I don't typically, unless it doesn't always cut off where you want it to cut off. Whereas like if you and I are having a conversation and I cut a piece out, it might leave a little bit of that conversation still there, like maybe the last syllable of a word or two syllables of a word. And I just find that it's easier for me to look at the timeline and make those cuts when I need to. And you can do that in Riverside pretty easy. Mm-hmm. But Descript did it really well most of the time, whereas Riverside, not really well. On the other side, Riverside now has a podcast host ability, so you can edit, or you can record, edit, and post to, podcast sites directly from Riverside. So it's like Acast or RSS.com. So all of these tools for the same price, but I think we pay $30 a month or something for Riverside now. All these tools are really helpful, and it could potentially, by bundling together, save you money. But then there are plenty of cases where a site starts bundling these things together, and now it's a quagmire. But I don't think Riverside's done that.
It could become a quagmire. This is the case for Squadcast. Squadcast was struggling against Riverside. They really were. I think Squadcast was one of the first that I can think of, one of the first ways that you were able to do a remote recording visually with someone, where you can be in your location in Phoenix. I'm at my location here in Columbus, and we get on and we're doing lossless audio over the internet. I think Squadcast was one of the first ones to do it.
Yep.
And then you had Riverside and all these other ones jump up that they started adding video. And I just don't think this Squadcast ever caught up with the video. Clearly they added it, but it just never caught up. So the only reason I was keeping my Squadcast subscription is because I like Descript so much. But then they kind of separated them out, and it's like, okay, well, I'll stay on the Descript side. I don't even know if I have access to Squadcast any longer. It might be still part of my subscription. I honestly don't know, but it's one of those things to where it's not a tool that I would use more so than I would use Riverside. It's not a tool that I would use more so than I would use Descript. And then for me, I do a lot of stuff inside of StreamYard. You know, there's multiple tools that we use to do the same thing. And Squadcast just never rose to the occasion for me. So it was great when it was great, but when audio kind of started fading out and video became the thing, Squadcast just didn't make as much sense anymore. So you asked me earlier, were there any tools that just didn't do for you what you needed them to do and you needed to make a switch? For me, it was Squadcast. That is the first tool that I started doing this remote recording stuff on. I may have access to it through Descript. I don't even know because I don't care to use it. It's just, I just don't use it anymore. I would first use Riverside. I would first use StreamYard. I even have I think it's called Boxcast or something like that I have a lifetime subscription for. I would use those before I would ever go back and use Squadcast. And I'm saying that Squadcast may be fine. There's no reason for me to go back to it because the tools that I use do what I need them to do without having to go learn another interface.
Yeah. Squadcast was solid in the beginning. It was more solid than any other program that I had used to that point to do that kind of thing. Which is to say, it still wasn't great. You can only record audio in the beginning and things like that, but you could still look at each other while you're talking. But it was a solid program. And then, Riverside within a short amount of time just kind of overtook them. And then you had StreamYard and stuff like that. And that made it even easier on top of that. But I loved Squadcast when I was using it. I was thinking, Rob, to wrap this up, is there anything that you're trying to solve for in your workflow that you haven't found a program for yet? So I'll go first. Mine is multicam editing. I want somebody to edit like I edit. What's a tool for you?
So it's AI in general. Now let me say it like this. I don't want to learn every AI tool. I don't want to be an expert in ChatGPT and in Gemini and in Anthropic and in Perplexity and in all these other tools. That is not my goal. My goal, however, is to figure out which tools work best for my workflow for the things that I do. So up until recently, because, ChatGPT just turned 3 years old. It's amazing that we've been talking about AI. It seems like for decades, but it really has only been the last 3 years. The tool just turned 3 years old at the end of November. So I got on board with ChatGPT very early on. Now I also have I am embedded in Google services. So I have Gemini as well. And Gemini wasn't as good as ChatGPT. Let's just be honest about it. It just simply was not as good until a week or two ago when Gemini 3 came out. I am regularly now finding Gemini 3 for what I do rivals another tool, Claude, which I've been using. I've been using Claude for some time just because ChatGPT wasn't doing everything that I needed to do the way that I needed to do it. And Claude was. I was finding for my workflow, for what I am doing as a content creator, Claude was the bee's knees, so to speak. But man, Gemini is really making its mark with what it's doing because it's one of these tools I already pay for it. And then like what you can do with Nano Banana. I mean, it is really incredible what Google has come out with. So a tool for me that is being displaced right now kinda is ChatGPT. And because I said, I am not looking to be the AI expert and I know how to use all tools effectively, I'm not going to continue paying for ChatGPT after my subscription ends literally the end of this month. And I'm not going to pay for the paid any longer. I'm just not using it enough. So for me, I don't change tools regularly, but when I do, I always make sure that I've got a backup or two. So in this case, I think that, I really like Claude. And I really like, over the last couple of weeks, what you can do in Gemini. So I'm pretty certain that I will be canceling my ChatGPT here at the end of the year. I feel an episode coming up. We probably should put it in the books to do an episode about using AI to enhance our creator business. Because there are a lot of camps. There are some folks who say, if you use AI, I just can't trust you anymore. And there are folks who are literally trying to use AI to replace themselves. I think both of those things are the wrong way to look at it. But as a creator, I use artificial intelligence all day, every day. It makes my job easier. I'm not using it to create content, but I am using it to help me create content. So there is a distinction and a difference in those statements. Like I said, I am not using it for creation. I am using it to help me create. And I think that maybe our listeners will be interested in just hearing how you and I are both using this. So that could be a future episode that maybe we come up with. And probably this is probably a 2026 thing because we're already at the end of the year.
Yeah, Rob, I would say that is a whole season 5. Maybe in the AI creation. I think that's a really great way to go because we've talked about this over the last 3 years multiple times, and I think we're at a place where we could do that. So, how would people find us, Rob, if they wanted to support the show and kind of see what else we're up to?
We are everywhere at beyondthepost.fm. So you're going to find us on social media. Bodie and I both have emails that you can send us. So I'm Rob with 2 B's at beyondthepost.fm. Bodie is Bodie at beyondthepost.fm. If you head to beyondthepost.fm slash Patreon, you'll find out all about our Patreon subscription that we have over there, where there is bonus content, a lot of bonus content that we have over there that folks are privy to. So I think the best way to find us is beyondthepost.fm. If you head to that, you'll find out many ways to contact us.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, and we will talk to you next time.